Hello, everyone, and welcome to Enlightening India. The first book that we're going to read together is Five Go to Smuggler's Top by Enid Blyton. This book is a part of the famous Five series. It is a very interesting book that I've read as a young kid. Before we get into the main story, let's quickly meet the main characters. Do remember, there are going to be other very important characters in the story, but we'll quickly meet the main ones, the five. As you would have noticed, the name of the series is Famous Five, so it definitely has something to do with the number five. The characters you see on the screen are the protagonists of the story and are collectively referred to as the famous five, the four people and Timothy the dog, who is also known as Timmy. Anne, Julian, and Dick are real siblings, and George is their cousin. George also goes by the name Georgina. Timmy is George's pet dog, and both of them love each other a lot. The girls and the boys study at different boarding schools and do not get to meet each other very often during the holidays. When the school term ends, they come home and meet each other and go on very exciting adventures. We'll be reading about one of these adventures in this book. Two other people that I would like you to meet are Georgina's parents, Quentin and Fanny. Uncle Quentin is a scientist who works on scientific stuff, usually the super secret kind. And Aunt Fanny is a lovely person. Now that we have met the five, let's begin this interesting read. Book 1, Chapter 1. Back to Kirin Cottage. Quick fact here, Kirin Cottage is the name of George's house. One fine day, right at the beginning of the Easter holidays, four children and a dog traveled by train together. Soon be there now, said Julian, a tall, strong boy with a determined face. Woof, said Timothy, the dog, getting excited and trying to look out of the window too. Get down, Tim, said Julian. Let Anne have a look. Anne was his younger sister. She put her head out the window. We are coming into Kirin Station, she said. I do hope Aunt Fanny will be there to meet us. Of course she will, said Georgina, her cousin. She looked more like a boy than a girl, for she wore her hair very short, and it curled close about her head. She too had a determined face, like Julian. She pushed Anne away and looked out the window. So these kids are going home after this college gets school's over, and they're going home back for the holidays, and they're traveling together in a train. It's nice to be going home, George said. I love school, but it will be fun to be at Kirin Cottage and perhaps sail out to Kirin Island and visit the castle there. We haven't been since last summer. Hey, it's Dick's turn to look out now, said Julian, turning to his younger brother, a boy with a pleasant face, sitting and reading in a corner. We're just coming into sight of Kirin. Dick, can't you stop reading for a second? It's such an exciting book, said Dick, and shut it with a clap. That's the most exciting adventure story I have ever read. Whew, I bet it's not as exciting as some of the adventures we have had, said Anne at once. So all these kids are going back, they're looking outside the window. They're seeing Kirin come into the play. They're getting closer to Kirin station. That is where George stays. And that's where our home Kirin cottage is. So everything has the word Kirin, okay? Let's continue. It was quite true that the five of them, counting in Timmy the dog, who always shared everything with them, had indeed had the most amazing adventures together. But now it looked as if they were going to have nice, quiet holidays, going for long walks over the cliffs, and perhaps sailing out in George's boat to their island of Kirin. I have worked jolly hard at school this term, said Julian. I could do with a holiday. You have gone thin, said Georgina. Nobody called her that. They all called her George. She would never answer to any other name. Julian grinned. Well, I'll soon get fat at Kirin Cottage. Don't you worry. Aunt Fanny will see to that. She's a great one for trying to fatten people up. It will be nice to see your mother again, George. She's an awfully good sort. Yes, I hope father will be in a good temper these holidays, said George. He ought to be, because He has just finished some new experiments, mother says, which have been quite successful. George's father was a scientist, always working out new ideas. He liked to be quiet, and sometimes he flew into a temper when he could not get the piece he needed, or things did not go exactly as he wanted them to. So George's father, as I had mentioned earlier, he's a scientist. He likes quiet environments to work in because he has to do a lot of important work. So he likes if everything is quiet. And sometimes, more rightly, occasionally, George's father, goes into a temper. Goes into a temper means he gets very angry when people around him start making a ruckus or start, shouting, children playing. So things like that sort. The children often thought that hot-tempered Georgina was very like her father. She too could fly into fierce tempers when things did not go right for her. So, the children usually thought that even Georgina, Uncle Quentin's daughter, she gets angry very easily. This is a similarity between her and her father. So, now they have reached to Kirin station, where, they were traveling through the train from the school to their house. Aunt Fanny was there to meet them. The four children jumped out on the platform and rushed to hug her. George got there first. She was very fond of her gentle mother, who had so often tried to shield her when her father got angry with her. Timmy pranced around, barking in delight. He adored George's mother. She patted him, and he tried to stand up and lick her face. Timmy's bigger than ever, she said, laughing. Down, old boy, you'll knock me over. So, the kids get down. They are very excited to meet George's mother, Aunt Fanny. She's waiting at the station, to take them home. And they're having a good laugh about it. And Timmy has become, even bigger compared to how he was before the last time Aunt Fanny had seen him. So they're all enjoying. They're very excited to see each other. Timmy was certainly a big dog. All the children loved him, for he was loyal, loving, and faithful. His brown eyes looked from one to the another, enjoying the children's excitement. Timmy shared in it, as he shared in everything. But the person he loved most, of course, was George. She had had him since he was a small puppy. She took him to school with her each term, for she and Anne went to a boarding school that allowed pets. Otherwise, George would most certainly have refused to go. Yeah, this is the relationship of George and Timothy. Both of them love each other a lot and would probably do anything for each other. They set off to Kirin in the pony trap. Ah, nice. So after they got out at the station, this is a story when cars were not as frequent as we see them today. So they were traveling by horse carts, a pony trap. A pony is basically a horse, and a pony trap is a horse cart. So they were traveling and they were going into the main city from the station. They were going to George's house using the pony cart. It was very windy and cold, and the children shivered and pulled their coats tightly around them. It's awfully cold, said Anne, her teeth beginning to chatter. Colder than in winter. It's the wind, said her aunt, and tugged a rug around her. It's been getting very strong the last day or two. The fishermen have pulled their boats high up the beach for a fear of a big storm. The children saw the boats pulled right up as they passed the beach, where they had bathed so often. They did not feel like bathing now. It made them shiver even to think of it. So when they were going from the station to Kirin, it was very cold. The wind was very cold, and since they did not were not traveling in a car, they were traveling in a pony cart. So the wind was directly hitting them, and it was getting very cold. So Aunt Fanny explained to the kids that yes, there's a storm coming. Even the fishermen who haven't left their boats in the beach, they have pulled them high on the sand so that the storm does not become very big and the waves do not take the boat away. Indeed, a storm is building up. The wind howled over the sea. Great scudding clouds raised overhead. The waves pounded on the beach and made a terrific noise. It excited Timmy, who began to bark. Be quiet, Tim, said George, patting him. You will have to learn to be a good, quiet dog now that we are home again, or father will be cross with you. Is father very busy, mother? So George is asking her mother, whether father is very busy, and she's telling Timmy, please, stay good, well mannered, because Uncle Quentin will gets very angry very easily when everyone starts making noise. So be on your best behavior, Timmy. And she's asking her mother how her father is, how busy her father is. Your father is very busy, said her mother, but he's going to do very little work now that you're coming home. He thought he would like to go for walks with you or go out in the boat if the weather calms down. The children looked at one another. Uncle Quentin was not the best of companions. He had no sense of humor, and when the children went off into fits of laughter, as they did 20 times a day or more, he could not see the joke at all. It looks as if these halls won't be quite so jolly if Uncle Quentin parks himself on us most of the time, said Dick in a low voice to Julian. So her mother replies, yes, your father was busy, but then he has completed most of his work. And your father would love to spend time with all of you, go out with walks, or go in their boat on the beach and have a fun time. Now the children loved Uncle Quentin. There is no doubt in that. But he was an old man, and they've enjoyed playing games that Uncle Quentin did not enjoy a lot. So they were slightly worried. Oh, if Uncle Quentin stays with us, then he's going to boss us around. He's going to keep telling us things. Let's see, said Julian, afraid that his aunt would hear and be hurt. George frowned. Oh, mother, father will be both stiff if he comes with us, and we'll be bored too. George was very outspoken and could never learn to keep a guard on her tongue. Her mother sighed. Don't talk like that, dear. I dare say your father will get tired of going with you after a bit. But it does him good to have a bit of a young life about him. They're just, having fun here, talking about their parents and talk. When you meet somebody after a very long time, you talk about random things. How are they? So that's what's going on. Here we are, said Julian, as the trap stopped outside an old house. Kirin Cottage. My word, how the wind is howling around it. So they have finally reached Kirin Cottage from the station in the pony cart. And when they reach there, now we get to know it's a very old house, and the wind is howling around it. So with the wind is blowing very, the wind is very quick right now around the house. My word, how the wind is howling around it, Aunt Fanny. Yes, it made a terrible noise last night, said his aunt. You take the trap around to the back, Julian, when we have got the things out. So the aunt tells Julian, take the cart back on the backside of the house where they keep the cart. And before that, let's quickly get the things out. Oh, here's your uncle to help. Uncle Quentin came out, a tall, clever looking man with rather frowning eyebrows. He smiled at the children and kissed George and Anne. Welcome to Kirin Cottage, he said. I'm quite glad your mother and father are away, Anne, because now we shall have you all here once again. So, as if you would have remembered when we were meeting the characters, George was the cousin of the other three people, right? And they would have gone to their respective homes, but Anne, Julian, and Dick, their parents have gone away for something, and so they were all these children were staying with George's parents, Quentin and Fanny together. Soon they were sitting around the table eating a big tea. Now, when the author uses the word big tea here, she does not mean a big tea, as in a big cup of tea or anything. But it's a big tea. That by that she means, there's everything. There are tea, there are biscuits, there are cookies, there's milk, and there's everything set up, and they're just having a good snack. Aunt Fanny always got ready a fine meal for the first one, for she knew they were very hungry after the long journey in the train. Even George was satisfied at last and leaned back in her chair, wishing she could manage just one more of her mother's most delicious new made buns. So everyone's, having a good time eating yummy food that Aunt Fanny has prepared. And even George, everybody loves the new food, and especially the new made buns. So Aunt Fanny baked some yummy bread that everybody's enjoying. Timmy sat close to George. He was not supposed to be fed at meal times, but it was really surprising how many tidbits found their way to him under the table. The wind howled around the house. The windows rattled, the doors shook, and the mats lifted themselves up and down as the draught got under them. So they're trying to depict, how windy it actually was. There was a lot of, when you're inside your house and there's a lot of rain, or there's fast winds blowing around, you notice a lot of noise, right? So that's what they're trying to signify here. They look as if they've got snakes wriggling underneath them, said Anne. Timmy watched them and growled. He was a clever dog, but he did not know why the mats wriggled in such a cute way. So Timmy was confused. Why are things making so much noise? What's going on here? I hope the wind will die down tonight, said Aunt Fanny. It kept me awake last night. Julian, dear, you look rather thin. Have you been working hard? I must fatten you up. The children laughed. Just what we thought you would say, mother, said George. Goodness, what's that? They all sat still, startled. There was a loud bumping noise on the roof, and Timmy put up his ears and growled fiercely. So the wind was continuing, and when they were having their tea, when they were having the good snacks, they suddenly heard a noise, a big loud thud. And Timmy the dog, he got up and he growled fiercely. Uncle Quentin said, "A tile must have fallen off the roof. How tiresome! We shall have to get the loose tile seen to." So Uncle Quentin is guessing here that maybe something on the roof fell down, maybe something on the roof broke. We'll have to go and check out those the rooftop and see if there are any loose tiles, and sort them up so that things stop falling and breaking. Fanny, when the storm is over or the rain will come in, Uncle Quentin tells her, I'll get somebody to look at the loose tiles when the storm is over or the rain will come in. The children rather hoped that their uncle would retire to his study after tea, as he usually did, but this time he didn't. The study is basically a place in a house where a room, a dedicated room, where somebody wants to concentrate. It does not mean a student studying, it just means a room in the house. It could be a bedroom, it could be any room. So the children were hoping that Uncle Quentin would, go to the study and continue doing his very important work, but he did not. They wanted to play a game, they wanted to create a sound, and if Uncle Quentin was in the study, then they could do that, right? They couldn't do it right now because he does not like a lot of noise. They wanted to play a game, but it wasn't much good with Uncle Quentin there. He really wasn't good at all. Not even at such a simple game as Snap. Do you know a boy called Pierre Lenore? Suddenly asked Uncle Quentin, taking a letter from his pocket. I believe he goes to your school. And Dick, said Julian. So Uncle Quentin takes out a letter from his pocket and he asks Julian and Dick whether they know Pierre Lenore. Pierre, and Uncle Quentin tells them that he's a student who goes to your school. Have you heard about him? Pierre Lenore. Oh, you mean old Sooty, said Julian. So, as we in India also, we have names for everybody, right? We have names for our friends. We have short names for our friends. So, Julian and Dick call Pierre Lenore Sooty in school. That's their nickname for him. Yes, yes, we know him. He's in Dick's class, sir. Mad as a hatter. Sooty. Now, why do you call him that? Said Uncle Quentin. Now, Uncle Quentin is confused. His name is Pierre Lenore, so why are you calling him Sooty? There must be a reason for it. Why are you just calling him random names? It seems a silly name for a boy, said Uncle Quentin. If you saw him, you wouldn't think so, said Dick with a laugh. Hair as black as soot, eyes like bits of coal, eyebrows that look as if they have been put in with charcoal. And his name means The black one, doesn't it? Lenore. That's French for black. So now Dick goes ahead and tries to explain to his uncle on why they call this boy Sooty. So apparently, this boy has very dark hair and eyes. That's nice. He has dark black hair and black eyes, and the kids just found a nickname for him, Sooty. Do you guys know what Sooty is? Soot is basically related to coal. Where after you burn coal, what is left? That powder is called soot. So since that boy had very dark hair, so these guys, so Dick and Julian call him Sooty. This is just a friends game, friends trick, making nicknames for their good friends. Yes, quite true. But what a name to give it to anyone. Sooty, said Uncle Quentin. Well, I have been having quite a lot of correspondence with this boy's father. He and I are interested in the same scientific matters. In fact, I've asked him whether he would whether he would not like to come whether he wouldn't like to come and stay with me a few days and bring his boy Pierre. Oh, really? Said Dick, looking quite pleased. Well, it wouldn't be a bad sport to have old Sooty here. Uncle, but he's quite mad. He never does as he's told. He climbs like a monkey and he can be awfully cheeky. I don't know if you would like him very much. Uncle Quentin looked sorry. He had asked Sooty after he had looked sorry he had asked Sooty after he had heard what Dick to say had to say. He didn't like cheeky boys, nor did he like mad ones. So Uncle Quentin tells the kids that he knows Pierre Lenore or Sooty, same person. He knows their father. That person's father is also a scientist, and Uncle Quentin and his father have been corresponding a lot. They have been working together. They have been discussing scientific things together. And for this, Uncle Quentin has invited the boy and his father to their house so that Uncle Quentin and the father and Sooty's father can work together. And they've also invited the boy. But then Dick tells him that Uncle Quentin, that's very good, but Sooty, he's very naughty. He does not do anything that you tell him to do, and he keeps running around the house. So it's not that the children don't like the children love Sooty, but they're just warning Uncle Quentin because Uncle Quentin does not like noisy or naughty kids. And then after hearing this, Uncle Quentin looks, oh, I should have asked you kids, before inviting them. If Sooty is like, as you have told me, very naughty, then it's going to be very difficult to work here. So Uncle Quentin says, he said, putting the letter away. I wish I had asked you about the boy first, before suggesting to his father that he might bring him with him. But perhaps I can prevent him coming. No, don't, father, said George, who rather liked the sound of Sooty, Lenore. Let's have him. He could come out with us and liven things up. So her father is confused. He's very upset that he should have asked the kids before inviting Sooty, because now if that kid comes and he starts his naughty antics here, then Uncle Quentin wouldn't get time to work. So his father decides, oh, maybe I'll have to tell Sooty's parents that no, you cannot bring Sooty. But then George says, let's have him here. George being a kid, like the sound of somebody who plays a lot of games. So she was like, let's have Sooty over. We will see, said her father, who had already made up his mind on no account to have the boy at Kirin Cottage. If he was mad, climbed everywhere, and was cheeky. George was enough of a handful without being a madcap of a boy egging her on. Much to the children's relief, Uncle Quentin retired to read by himself about 8 o'clock. Aunt Fanny looked at the clock. Time for Aunt to go to bed, she said. And you too, George. Just one good game of slapdown patience. All of us playing it together, mother, said George. So now it was getting late in the night, and Uncle Quentin went to his study to work on important scientific things. And Aunt Fanny tells the kids, hey, it's getting very late. You guys have had your dinner and snacks and everything. Time for all of you to go to bed. So George and the kids must be playing some game called Slapdown Patience. I don't know what that game is. So George tells her, "Mother, one more game, please, and then we'll all go." "Come on, you played too," told George to her mother. She wanted her mother also to participate in the game for one round. "It's our first evening at home. Come on, join us. Anyway, I shall not sleep for ages while the gale howling around. With this gale howling around, gale basically means wind, where a stormy wind. So with this whole, wind making so much noise, it's going to be very difficult to sleep anyways. So let us play a bit. Come on, mother, one good game. Then we'll go to bed. Julian's been yawning like anything already. So the kids tell her, last game, we are going to bed. And that's about it. So this is the end of chapter 1. This is the very basic introduction to the story, where the kids come back from the school. They take a pony cart to their to George's house, Kirin Cottage. That's where they meet her parents, and they enjoy a very healthy snack. And after that, they are playing a game called Slapdown Patience. Meanwhile, Uncle Quentin has told them that he has invited Sooty Lenore and his father to for work, so that he can work with Sooty Lenore's father directly. And now he's having second thoughts about it after hearing that Sooty is a naughty kid. And that's where we'll end this session now. This is the end of chapter 1. We have had a nice introduction to the story. We have characters set up now. Let's see how the story proceeds. Looking forward for all of you to join in for chapter 2. Thank you.